On that methodology, in today's numbers, Bitcoin's worth over $300,000 US per coin. And that's before we've hit the credit event. That's just using open market rates.
These fuckers are going to print. They're going to print until their fucking eyes bleed. And we know it's going to happen. And so all we've got to do is outlast them and then watch them as they suffer.
Welcome to Bitcoin Broadcast, where we delve into the evolving narrative of Bitcoin's journey in the global financial ecosystem. Today's discussion is not just about market trends and forecasts. It's a profound exploration of the seismic shifts shaping our financial world. Imagine a scenario where traditional financial concepts are challenged and redefined. This is the reality we're unpacking, guided by insights from leading voices in cryptocurrency and finance. To navigate this thought-provoking journey with us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for the latest updates in the world of Bitcoin and beyond.
They are going to lose this battle, and the currency is going to ultimately become worthless. And you can kind of see that. I mean, in Powell's most recent presser, he said he's navigated under cloudy skies with a sextant. I mean, dude, we got GPS. I mean, what the fuck? You know, I mean, the guy has no clue what he's doing, and you're seeing him start to indicate that they're going to have to pivot. And I think in terms of an event horizon, we're all of the belief that that pivot has got to come fairly soon.
So that pivot would indicate resumed QE. I like to say QE infinity is inevitable. But with resumed QE, what you have is accelerated fiat debasement. Now, everyone needs to understand that the US 10-year note basically sets rates for the rest of the world. So what happens in the USA impacts the rest of the world. And it's those other secondary and tertiary fiats that get really, really hurt. So we can look at Bitcoin price in US dollars, but sometimes I encourage you, I'm a Canadian, a G7 country. Canada is a G7 country with an economy that's smaller than the state of California's economy. You guys are very lucky to live in the United States. It's a beautiful, integrated economy, but it sets rates for the rest of the world. And sometimes when the USA catches a cold, everyone else gets very, very sick. So we have to understand the context on a global macro basis.
And historically, we've seen this many, many times. We saw it in 2008. We saw it in the repo crisis in 2018. We saw it in March of this year. I mean, the Fed actually arguably already has pivoted. BTFP was a small pivot. And so we know that their third mandate, their two mandates are obviously, full employment and inflation. They failed at inflation, obviously. We know their third mandate is keeping the system functioning, and every time it doesn't function, they do the exact same thing, which is they pivot. And I want to just read three headlines. These are just from yesterday. Nick Tamaros in the Journal. If the bond market keeps this up, the Federal Reserve will have less of a reason to hike rates again. Wonder what that means. Wall Street Journal headline yesterday. Rising interest rates mean deficits finally matter. Bond sell-off might force the Fed to rethink shedding assets. What does that mean? Okay. Breaking markets. Fed's daily. With the rise in bond yields, the need to do additional tightening by the Fed is not there. What does that mean? Eyes bleed. And we know it's going to happen. And so all we've got to do is outlast them and then watch them as they suffer. You know, they were very close to losing control of the whole thing in March when Silicon Valley Bank went down. I mean, they thanked their lucky stars that the BTFP worked and that, Aunt Janet was able to bluff everybody into believing that they would cover all the deposits, because there's $17 trillion in bank deposits. The FDIC cannot cover that amount. But those banks are still hurting. I mean, 50 to 60% of the banks probably have negative equity right now. And wait until the wages from all these labor movements start to flow through the earnings statements of all these companies. I mean, I feel terrible for these people who are striking. I understand why they're striking. The strike is they're getting roasted by inflation, but they're about to realize they got a bigger problem than inflation. They're about to lose their job. because the companies are going to fail, and then they're going to be out of work. I mean, guys, I mean, sadly, this is going to be an unbelievable shit show, in my view, in the next 12 months. And my sense is that politicians are going to respond the way they've always responded, which is to cover their own ass, to try and protect their own ass. And the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest way for them to do it is going to be to chop rates and send out UBI. And to answer your question, Preston, I think it's going to be unbelievable. I think the Fed balance sheet is going to 20 billion or 20 trillion on the next cycle. They're going to have to, because once again, you know, they're steering this car between these guardrails of too much inflation and too much deflation. I mean, we've got negative M2 growth today. We haven't seen that since 1930, which was the Great Depression. And so if they think they can do the same thing and not have the same result, good luck. It's going to be a mess.
As we pivot from discussing the broader economic landscape to a more Bitcoin-centric view, let's turn our attention to Preston's insights. He brings a fresh perspective on Bitcoin's integration into standard portfolios and the potential approval of Bitcoin ETFs. This segment might just redefine how we perceive Bitcoin in the realm of mainstream investment.
So I guess I would say I think in the coming 12 months we're going to be, as Bitcoiners, going to be kind of surprised at some of the things that we see. In particular, I think one of the things that's going to surprise us most is I think you're going to actually see a large bank, call it Fidelity, BlackRock, or whatever. I think they're going to actually, I think the ETF's going to get approved. I think you're going to see one of these large banks actually start to recommend Bitcoin as a percent of the standard portfolio for people. And I know that sounds crazy for people listening to that. I think that's happening in the coming 12 months, where I could see a BlackRock say, we think it's appropriate for 1% of a person's portfolio to be in Bitcoin.
Oh, and by the way, we have this ETF for you.
And we have this ETF vehicle for you to do it, which I don't think anybody should invest in. I think they should self-custody, buy their own Bitcoin, hold their own keys. But I think that it's their only hope out of this. I think there's people on Wall Street that are actually able to do this math. I think they're somewhat starting to see what the value prop of Bitcoin is, in that it actually provides salvation to this disastrous scenario. And I'm very hopeful that that it'll be hopefully enough to kind of bridge this transition. And I think hang on to your hats, because I think the next 12 months for Bitcoiners is going to be one hell of a ride.
Shifting gears from the potential rise of Bitcoin in mainstream portfolios, we now listen to Mark Yusko's stark predictions. Mark discusses the looming threat of hyperinflation in the US by 2030 and the pivotal role Bitcoin might play in this scenario. His views offer a compelling look at the future of currency and inflation.
Everybody's here obviously understands the issues and the problems. A lot of people ask when, and none of us know when. It feels to me like we're in it right now with what the 10-year is doing. I'd be shocked if it takes more than a year for this thing to come unglued and for them to have to pivot massively. Shocked. But I've been wrong a lot. So I think by 2030, the dollar is worthless. We've got full-fledged hyperinflation.
So thank God for Bitcoin.
Yeah, thank God for Bitcoin.
Next, we segue into Greg Foss's compelling arguments on fiat debasement. Greg offers a certainty that's rare in finance, the inevitability of fiat debasement. His discussion extends beyond mere speculation, providing concrete reasons why Bitcoin could be the hard asset of the future.
Fiat debasement is 100% certain. When you're given a certainty of an outcome, you need to protect yourself. Very few things in finance are 100% certain. Fiat debasement is 100% certain. Hence, own hard assets. What's the best hard asset? Here's a shout out to Swan. You guys know they have this brilliant CIO. His name is Hoffa. He put together something called the Nakamoto portfolio.com. It's an open source platform that measures, or it gives you the ability to analyze anybody's portfolio to see how much Bitcoin should be in that portfolio to optimize Sharpe ratios, a way of saying what is the best way to increase return and maintain the same level of risk, or reduce your risk and keep the same level of return. Hoffa was kind enough to put my CDS model on the portfolio, which values Bitcoin using credit default swaps on sovereign nations around the world. The value of Bitcoin, according to the Nakamoto portfolio.com. On that methodology, in today's numbers, Bitcoin's worth over $300,000 US per coin. And that's before we've hit the credit event. That's just using open market rates. Guys, learn mathematics. It's that simple. Manage risk accordingly. Buy Bitcoin for the kids. Thank you.
As we conclude today's enlightening journey through Bitcoin's evolving narrative in the global economy, we hope you found these insights as intriguing as we did. From the inevitability of fiat debasement to the potential rise of Bitcoin in mainstream investment portfolios. Today's discussion painted a vivid picture of a financial world on the cusp of transformation. Thank you for joining us at Bitcoin Broadcast. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Stay tuned for more insights and discussions that keep you connected with the pulse of Bitcoin's future.